a look at what he just tweeted as we came on air. Quote, attorney-client privilege is now a thing of the past. I have too many lawyers, and they are probably wondering when their offices and even homes are going to be raided with everything, including their phones and computers taken. All lawyers are deflated and concerned, unquote. What's your reaction? It obviously is an incredibly bold move for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, an office you used to hold, for them to raid Michael Cohen's office.
Yeah, so when he said all lawyers are deflated, I'm not deflated. I think that you have to trust that that office is doing things by the book and crossing every T and dotting every I. I don't think that Donald Trump has a decent understanding of what the attorney-client privilege is and how it can be pierced. The people who are doing the investigation in the Southern District of New York, I know very well. I know the person who's in charge of the investigation, Robert Khuzami, who's the deputy U.S. attorney, because the U.S. attorney himself recused himself. He's a professional. I worked alongside him for a number of years. He's a person who knows how to do a prosecution. He was a career prosecutor in the office for a number of years. The three assistant U.S. attorneys whose names appear on the brief opposing the TRO that Michael Cohen's lawyer sought are all people who are professional, who know what they're doing, who do things by the book, all three of whom I hired, in fact, over the last number of years. So I have great confidence in their ability to do things right, to do things that make sense. In addition, by the way, the decision to do the raids, the searches on Michael Cohen putative attorney's home, hotel, and office were approved also by an office, a career office in the Department of Justice called OEO, the Office of Enforcement Operations. So in addition to Rod Rosenstein, who is a Republican who oversees the Mueller investigation, there are career professionals in Washington and New York alongside a judge who had to approve all of it to see if those searches were okay. And by the way, if you read the brief that my former colleagues filed in the Southern District of New York in front of Judge Wood, who was also a very fine, well-respected jurist in the Southern District of New York, they're very meticulous in explaining all the reasons why they felt they had to engage in this process. Among other things, Michael Cohen, from everything you see in that brief, is barely a lawyer.
Right, he's a fixer, is the argument made by the government. Yeah. While the president's waging war on that front, he's also waging war on the Comey front. I want you to take a listen to what Comey had to say this week about the unconfirmed allegations from the Steele dossier.
Honestly, never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible, but I don't know.
It's possible, but I don't know. No, Comey's being criticized by people saying it's possible, but I don't know is the same thing as saying I have no evidence to confirm that it's true. Isn't Comey, these critics say, putting himself out there for criticism by phrasing it that way?
I suppose. Look, there are a lot of strong feelings about Jim Comey on both sides of the aisle. And there's on certain occasions people like him because they think he's engaging in a practice that's hurting a political opponent of theirs. And on the other side of the coin, people think the opposite, depending on what is going on at the time. My view of Jim Comey, separate and apart from what you think of his book, which I haven't had a chance to read yet, or what you think about the things he did with respect to the Hillary Clinton investigation, which reasonable people can absolutely have an objection to and not be happy about. But the one thing I believe to be true about Jim Comey is he's not a liar. He doesn't make stuff up. He has a good memory. He has a keen understanding of how the law works and what investigations are supposed to be about. Whether or not he's spoken about them in a way that went beyond what maybe a reasonable person should have done. So when he says that the president asked for his personal loyalty, another thing that the president has tweeted about this morning, I believe that. I credit that.
What do you make of President Trump having another tweet storm and attacking Jim Comey this morning? I'm sure he has advisors around him saying all you're going to do is make this another bestseller and give the book more oxygen. Have shows like this one talk more about Jim Comey than we were originally planning on doing so because you're talking about it. Having interacted with President Trump, what do you think?
I interacted with him one time in person and a couple of times on the phone, and then I refused to take his phone call, which remains something that I'm very proud of, given how he talks about other interactions that politicians and law enforcement people have. I find it very hard to get into the president's head. I think a lot of people do a lot of speculation about what goes on. Clearly, the Jim Comey experience has gotten under his skin. He doesn't like someone getting airtime who is critical of him. And the way he deals with it is he lashes out on Twitter. My guess is that his lawyers don't want him to go about it that way, that there's lots of evidence, not necessarily in this tweet storm, but in other tweet storms, that will be bad for him if Bob Mueller ends up coming around to bringing some kind of case together, either in a report or otherwise, relating to obstruction. Every single time the president makes clear that he doesn't like an investigation of him or his associates and wants that investigation to stop, that adds to the narrative that when he takes an action that actually can cause the investigation to stop, that was intentional and is potential obstruction. I'm not saying it is obstruction, but it adds grist for people to find that to be true.
On Friday, President Trump pardoned Scooter Libby, the former chief of staff to Vice President Dick Cheney, who was convicted of perjury in 2007 during an investigation into who leaked the identity of a CIA officer. This investigation at the time was spearheaded by a special counsel who was appointed by none other than James Comey, and also is a very close friend of James Comey's. Do you think the president was taking a shot at Comey? Do you think he was sending a signal that he doesn't consider lying to the FBI a serious crime? He's willing to pardon people for it. Do you think he was trying to send a signal, hey, hang in there, Michael Flynn, Paul Manafort, I'm willing to exercise my pardon power? How do you interpret it?
Well, that's certainly the impression that's given. There's not much other explanation for, out of the blue, in that time frame, to decide to pardon Scooter Libby. He went outside of the process of the Justice Department. It's not clear to me, and maybe I missed it, it's not clear to me that Scooter Libby's lawyers were advocating in this particular time frame for their client to be pardoned. Even President Bush, for whom Scooter Libby worked indirectly, decided to only commute the sentence, not give a complete and total pardon. President Trump himself says that he barely knows the guy. So given how many thousands of people are out there, and my office used to process these requests on a regular basis, how many thousands of people are out there who may have been prosecuted in a way that was over-aggressive, where charges were piled on, who want to get on with their lives in a way that maybe the president can help by issuing a pardon. None of those people have gotten a pardon. But this person who the president doesn't know, who it allows him to make a political statement and also to send a message, as you suggest, to people who are currently in the hot seat with respect to the Mueller investigation, I find it very difficult to come to any other conclusion that he's sending a message. And it's true that the pardon power is something that the president can exercise in any way, shape, or form, pretty much he wants. But it's kind of abusive, I think, if you're using it to send a political message to people who may be in a position to testify against you.